photograph in which we were in love.
We're going to be talking and teaching how to build shiplap wall. This is a master bedroom. We're going to talk to you and teach you how this whole project comes together. The project at this point has cost me about $400. So it's a cheap project that you can do once you save up a little bit of money, or if you have the money laying around. It's a good project that adds a lot of value to your home. It adds a lot of aesthetic pleasing look to it, and it is really popular right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with some of the prep work. And one of the most important things with the prep work is marking off your studs. And so what we're going to do is, I've already marked them up here. You can see that I've marked them with a black Sharpie marker where all the studs are. I used a stud finder, and then we're going to mark it with a pencil all the way up. So as we place the boards on top, we can see the line of where I need to nail these in. Obviously, you can see that half of this project is already done, but I'm still going to be able to teach you through it. I'm going to teach you the entire project. We're going to walk you through start to finish, but right now we're just going to get going on the prep work with marking out these studs. Run this up. Something important to remember is that your very first board needs to be level. And so what we chose to do is we have these baseboards that are flat. If you can see down here, our baseboards are flat. And so I actually just took and set my first board right on top of the baseboard. If you choose to take the baseboard off so your first piece goes to the ground, that's fine. You can do whatever you want. The most important thing is that your first board is level. If your first board is not level, your measurements are going to start to get off, and when you go to the top of your ceiling, you're going to have cants like this. It's very important that your board is level. What I use is just a basic leveling tool, and I'll show you right here that all of my pieces, even going up to this one, are level, because I made the very first board level. Make sure you do that. That's very important. What I did, and I actually was able to do it all on my own. So I did all of these boards up to the window by myself. And what I did is I got my board cut to length, whatever your wall is. We wanted it to be one large piece. And so we didn't want any seams in the middle of the wall or anywhere else with the pieces. So I cut them to length. I brought it in, I set it on top of the baseboard. I picked the middle of the board, I made sure that it was snug to the baseboard and pushed up against, and I nailed one nail in. Then I went over to my right side, snugged it down to the baseboard, nailed in the other side, that side, and then I went through and nailed it in. What I've done, in the middle of my board, I've hit it with three nails. In the middle, 3 nails on the sides, 3 nails on that side. I know that there's 2x4s on each side, so it sucks it up good. And then on each 2x4, I've hit it with 2 nails. That keeps it nice and snug up against the wall. I was noticing that if I didn't put nails in every single 2x4, that it would actually gap up off the wall. So it's got to be sucked up tight against the wall. So I nailed 2 nails into each one. And you don't want to do too many, because in the long run, we're going to have to putty all of these. But it does need to be snug up against the wall. And so that's how that process worked. We'll be able to show you that a little bit more up here. But the biggest thing with this shiplap is you can buy it at Home Depot, you can buy it at Lowe's, you can buy it anywhere around any of your local woodworking places. Usually will have some of it. Make sure that you buy the actual shiplap wood that has the tongue and groove in it. Why I say that is because these pieces are actually, they piece together perfectly, where you can just take this next board and set it down, and it leaves your standard 1/4 inch gap in between each piece of wood. There's no guesswork. You don't have to stick anything in here to get your gap or anything like that. It sets in and does it on its own. we're going to move into the garage and I'm going to show you how these go together and how this works so that you can see how these all come together as you set them on your wall. We'll move out into the garage.
Okay, so now we're in the garage and we're going to show you exactly how Shiplap fits together and how it makes your 1/4 inch grooves standard. So if you come over here and look, you can see that on both sides of the board, come closer, you can see that there's a groove on a top groove, and then it indents into the bottom groove, and then on the other side, it indents in on the top. So what you do is you have one piece, and you're going to take your second piece, and all you do is you lay them down side by side, you just slide them together, and because the bottom groove is a little bit longer than the top groove, it's going to create your gap that goes across it.
And what's important about that is it makes the work really easy. All you have to do is lay your board up against the wall, nail it down. You take your next one, and you literally just set it on top of it, and it sucks together, and then you nail that one down, and it gives you your standard 1/4 inch groove.
Okay, so I'm going to show you right now how you're going to cut out all of your outlets. And so what you're going to do is you're going to take and you want to measure off your wall from the end of the board, and you're just going to measure in. And so as you can see right here, I'm at 49 inches off the wall. So I would, if I was going to cut this out, I'd make a mark at 49 inches because you can see the electrical box inside. And you can see the right wall is at 49 inches. And then you would make a mark at 51, and looks like we're just about at 1/8 of an inch. And that would be your left wall of the electrical box. And so now you would, to get the bottom of the box, you would measure off the bottom piece of shiplap, or the one that's underneath it, and you would measure up. And right here you can see that we are at 2 5/8 of an inch, but we actually need to be a little bit lower because we forgot to compensate for the tongue and groove of the shiplap.
So that 1/4 inch, we need to lower it a 1/4 inch. We measured it 2.5 inches, but it needed to be a 1/4 inch lower because that board sits up a 1/4 of an inch higher.
And then your top one is at, from the top of the shiplap to the outlet is at 6.5 inches, and that one is good. So I'm going to show you how to cut this out just a little bit using a cobalt multi-tool with just a flat wood cutting blade on it.
Okay, really fast while he cuts that out, I just want to talk about how awesome this Cobalt multi-tool is. It helps so much when it comes to cutting out perfect squares with outlets. I've done a bunch of projects to cutting out trim, outlets, things like that. I highly recommend a multi-tool to do some of these finished projects. They rock.
Okay, and now you can see that the outlet, we actually might need to go down just a hair more, but you can see that the outlet needs to come out and sit on top of the shiplap. So when you put your cover back on, that it is flush.
So I suggest these Cobalt multi-tools. They're a really good tool to cut out nice square marks, and obviously this is a little bit forgiving because you're going to cover it with your outlet, so it doesn't have to be 100% perfect, but this gets you really, really good straight cuts. It just takes a little bit of practice, and so that's how you cut out your outlets right there. And obviously we understand that your measurements are going to be different for your walls and everything like that. We were just kind of demonstrating how that's done. Awesome. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to measure out around this window. And I know that some of the walls that you're going to do may not have windows, but we're going to walk you through it just because we do have a window on this wall. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this bottom measurement from this next piece up to the
bottom of
the window frame, and then we'll go from side to side. And so the way that we do that to get an exact measurement, we use one of these speed squares.
So you're going to set it up there, you're going to make it nice and flat, and then you'll just take your measurement right up to the bottom of the speed square.
And so what you're going to do is, with you come over here to the shiplap, so this is important to get your measurements right. I rest on the actual groove piece, so my tape measure rests on that, and then I measure up. So I'm at 5 1/4, but you got to remember that your board's going to sit a 1/4 of an inch higher with that gap. So my measurement isn't going to be 5 1/4, it's going to be 5 inches. So that's how you do that. And so we know that when we go draw our line out, it's going to be 5 inches up from the top of the board. And then we're going to do right here from wall to the window.
Right here, just really fast, guys. Obviously, I know that if you're going to do a wall without a window, you don't need to watch this part of the video. I completely get that. One thing that I want to mention is we're just kind of hurrying showing you how to measure out around the window, because some of you will have windows or obstacles that you're going to need to go around. The square idea of holding it up to that spot gives you a really flush fit when you go to nail up your board. So I strongly suggest that method if you need to. If not, obviously we completely understand.
And obviously your measurements are going to be different, but that's how you do it to get you a really good cut that's going to come up here and level off with your window well. Okay, something important that I forgot to mention while we're in there, we're back in the garage, we're going to start making some cuts and drawing out our measurements on our next piece of shiplap, is before you measure out those spots on the where your window are, you got to make sure you cut your board to length. So what I'm going to do is I already have my exact measurement for how long my wall is. I'm going to cut my board to that length first and then mark out my measurements on it. So right now we're going to cut that. I need power.
I got you.
Okay.
Clear. Really quick. Mark at 5 inches. And I make several marks as you go down so that you can use a speed square and get a level line. On your mark and draw it right up to 5 inches.
We're back now, and now we're going to show you how this shiplap sits onto the piece. So if you look at it, we have it up just above it, and all you got to do is literally just slide it down, and it will literally just slide right into place. You even heard it click in over there, and you know you got it in there good once it clicks. So I'll click my side down, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take and nail the center in. And then we'll come over here to the right and do these.
Alright, so we got this board nailed up. Now what we're going to do is we're going to cut a piece that goes from the windowsill over to the wall on this side and that side. And then we'll have to do another piece where we cut out the windowsill again. Now we have one side cut as well. We're going to put this one in again. Make sure you're nice and tight up against the wall. Have lots of pressure on the board.
Alright, so at this point, we've got the shiplap up from top to bottom. We had to cut that top piece down so it'll fit. Now we're going to go through and do some of the finished work and the trim. It's a really easy project. I mean, really, it's only taken me a couple of hours total to do this whole thing, and it completely is going to transform the room. Right now, what we're going to do is we're going to add some trim along these edges. So if you come up here, you're going to see that these boards aren't exactly perfect against the wall. And so you can see some of the gaps. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some finished trim along that edge, give it a nice clean edge to work with. And then we're going to do the same thing with the window. We're going to frame that in, give that a nice clean edge all the way around it along the top, and then we'll be done with that and we'll move on to paint. So stand by as we frame in all the trim work. Just tap it in there.
I just want to throw a plug in there really fast about the Ryobi battery-operated nail gun that I've used throughout this project. Ryobi knocked it out of the park with this 1,300 nails in one battery charge, and I put that to the test, and it performed flawlessly. I've always used an air hose nail gun, and I suggest making the switch over to the battery-operated one. So awesome.
Okay, everybody, we have finished all of our trim work up and around the windows on that side. So everything's done. Now we got to go through and caulk all the nail holes. So if you see something important when you go to paint is you're going to want to fill in all of these nail holes, or you're going to get little divots in your paint and it's not going to look right. So make sure that you fill in all of those. As you can tell, we have a lot of work to do. So we'll get back with you when it's ready to paint.
I keep a photograph in which we were in love, caught in your eyes, waiting for the sunrise.